What if the end of the world wasn't caused by war or aliens or even a virus, but by a fungus? In HBO's The Last of Us, the monsters lurking in the shadows aren't your average zombies. They're infected, twisted, horrifying shells of humanity controlled by a real-world fungus that actually exists in nature. And what's even scarier, it's scientifically possible. This isn't just science fiction. It starts with something disturbingly real, a parasitic fungus called Cordyceps, known for hijacking insects. And in this universe, it's evolved to do the same to us. The result? An infection that spreads fast, controls the brain, mutates the body, and leaves behind a trail of nightmare-fuel creatures, each more grotesque than the last. Welcome back to your nerdy show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. Today we're diving deep into the terrifying biology of the infected, from their origin and how the infection spreads, to the gruesome stages that transform ordinary people into runners, clickers, bloaters, and beyond. This is the anatomy of fear. This is The Last of Us.
What are we doing, Joe?
The beginning, when nature turned hostile. It all started in 2003, when a previously insect-exclusive fungus evolved into a strain that could infect humans. This strain, a version of Cordyceps or Cordyceps, had long been known to parasitize insects like ants, manipulating their bodies before killing them. Insects like ants would be forced to climb to high places before dying, allowing the fungus to release spores from a vantage point. But that kind of infection was harmless to humans, until the planet began to warm. As Earth's global temperature rose, so too did the adaptability of the fungus. The evolved Cordyceps became resilient to the body heat of mammals, finally breaching the barrier that had long protected humans. The infection began in Jakarta, Indonesia, where the first signs of the outbreak were traced to a flour and grain factory. Since the mutated Cordyceps could survive in yeast-based products, it spread rapidly through common foods like bread and cookies. By the time the infection reached the United States, it was already too late. Civilization crumbled within days. Infection and early symptoms. Once a person ingests or is exposed to the Cordyceps fungus, the infection takes hold with shocking speed. The early symptoms appeared deceptively mild: coughing, slurred speech, and muscle spasms. But soon after, the true horror begins. The fungus begins to overtake the brain, hijacking the host's motor functions and turning them increasingly aggressive. It manipulates the body like a puppet, using violent instincts to ensure its own survival and propagation. Driven by this biological urge, infected hosts relentlessly attack the uninfected, seeking to pass the infection through tendrils that sprout from the mouth. These tendrils function almost like parasitic vines, physically connecting to and contaminating new victims. Interestingly, animals are often able to detect infected individuals even before the infection fully takes control. Dogs like Mercy, the Adler family's golden retriever, displayed signs of fear and agitation around infected humans, even in the early stages. This natural instinct was later used by communities like Jackson, which trained dogs to detect infections in newcomers as part of their security protocols. The Hivemind and Mycelial network. One of the most terrifying aspects of the Cordyceps infection is the hive-mind it creates. Beneath the surface of the earth, a vast mycelial network connects the infected through fungal roots. These roots can lie dormant, but if even one section is disturbed, a crunch of a footstep, a spark from a flame, it can alert infected hosts as far as a mile away. This network isn't limited to the ground. It can grow into trees and other organic material, meaning the infection isn't just a matter of avoiding monsters. It's avoiding the very landscape itself. A dried out fungal patch might mean the host is dead, but if the mycelium is intact, it could still function as a trigger, drawing in nearby infected like a hornet's nest. The infection's strange intelligence. There are several disturbing moments throughout the series that suggest the infected aren't mindless. While they are no longer human, they seem to possess a form of rudimentary intelligence, or perhaps a collective instinct. When Tess reveals she's infected, one of the infected approaches her in an oddly intimate moment. Instead of attacking, it gently transfers fungal tendrils into her mouth, almost like a kiss. This behavior could be interpreted as the fungus recognizing one of its own, opting to accelerate the infection rather than waste energy on violence. Contrast this with Ellie, who, while infected, is immune. The infected don't hesitate to attack her, likely because they recognize she is a failed host, something they cannot control or bond with. This contrast suggests the Cordyceps infection has a logic to its behavior, one governed by an alien form of intelligence operating through the fungus itself. The long-term horror. By the time we reach 2028, the infection has taken on new forms. Some infected now show signs of increased intelligence and hunting strategies. Ellie's encounter with a particularly clever stalker, one that waited in the dark until she was distracted, proves that this isn't an infection that's static. It's evolving. Despite efforts by communities like Jackson to survive and rebuild, the infected remain a constant threat. Their biology, driven by survival and spread, makes them more than just monsters. They are a living ecosystem, a fungal force that reshapes both the body and the land.
And clear the roads for their tanks and such.
I want to see a tank.
Well,
Infection and spread. The source of the infection is a mutated strain of Cordyceps unilateralis, a real-life fungus that typically targets insects. In the world of The Last of Us, climate change causes the fungus to evolve and adapt to higher temperatures, allowing it to survive and spread in human hosts. Once it enters a body, usually through a bite, infected bodily fluids, or by inhaling airborne spores, the infection spreads rapidly. After exposure, the fungus begins attacking the host's brain, hijacking motor functions and overriding the nervous system. Initial symptoms include dizziness, excessive sweating, stinging eyes, and increasing irritability. Movement becomes sluggish, coordination fails, and within 48 hours, the host typically turns into a runner, the first stage of the infected life cycle. Airborne spores, which form when a corpse releases fungal particles into a damp, closed environment, are equally dangerous. Breathing them in can infect a person in minutes. These spores make environments like underground tunnels and abandoned buildings incredibly risky. Interestingly, Ellie, the series' main protagonist, is immune. She can breathe spores without symptoms and cannot pass on the infection. Stages of infection. The Cordyceps infection evolves in stages, each becoming more dangerous and grotesque as the fungus takes over the host's body. Runners. The earliest and most human-like stage. These infected are agile, frantic, and driven by rage. Physical changes include pale and discolored skin, bloodshot eyes, and open sores. Some retain enough awareness to show pain or distress while attacking, suggesting the host may still be conscious underneath the fungal control. Stalkers. After prolonged infection, runners transition into stalkers. These creatures are more stealthy, often hiding in shadows or attaching themselves to walls in dormancy. Fungal growth becomes more pronounced, especially around the eyes and shoulders. The face begins to peel away, and in many cases, the nose and other facial features rot or fall off as the fungus cracks through the skull. Clickers. Perhaps the most iconic stage, clickers are blind due to complete fungal overgrowth of the head and eyes. They use echolocation to detect movement, emitting clicking and croaking sounds to navigate. Their skulls are completely split open, leaving a jagged maw of rotted teeth. Their skin is covered in scales, mold, and hardened fungal tissue. Bloaters and shamblers. The most advanced standard stage. These infected are massively bloated due to dense fungal armor. Their bodies grow hardened fungal plates that act like natural armor, making them very difficult to kill. Bloaters can rip off pods of mycotoxin and throw them at enemies, spreading toxic spores. Some also survive extreme environments, such as fire and cold, showing the fungus has adapted to offer protective benefits. Rat King. A unique and rare mutation, the Rat King is an amalgamation of multiple infected fused together after years of dormancy in a single location. It's immensely strong, resilient to fire, and capable of splitting into multiple infected entities. It represents the absolute peak of fungal development within a host. Physical mutations. Each stage of infection brings drastic physical changes. Hair loss, skin discoloration, and fungal lesions appear early. As the fungus invades the skull, it breaks apart the bone to make room for its fruiting bodies, eventually replacing facial features with hardened fungal growths. In later stages, the body bloats, the skin calcifies, and armor-like fungal plating forms. In dead hosts, the fungus continues to grow, using the body to release spores into the air. Behavior and cognitive effects. One of the most disturbing elements of the infection is its effect on behavior. Once infected, the host loses all rational thought and acts on aggressive primal instincts. Runners are erratic and loud, but clickers and bloaters act with singular, deadly focus. Their increased sensitivity to sound makes stealth essential for survivors. Despite the complete loss of self-control, some infected, especially in early stages, seem aware of their actions. There are instances where runners appear to moan in pain or hesitate during attacks, showing remnants of human consciousness. Clickers sometimes claw at their faces as if trying to remove the fungus, suggesting an internal struggle. Infected can feel pain, despite their altered physiology. Gunshots, fire, or being stabbed can make them scream and thrash violently. Gunfire also startles early-stage infected, hinting that fear responses still exist in some form. Dormancy is also a notable behavior. Stalkers and runners may attach themselves to walls or floors, lying in wait for days, weeks, or longer until disturbed. In these states, the fungus continues growing, and if left undisturbed, will eventually kill the host and turn the body into a spore-releasing nest.
Shamblers? Is that what they called them? Yeah. Where the hell do shamblers come from?
Our nerdy thoughts. The infected in The Last of Us aren't just monsters. They're a haunting reminder of what happens when nature turns against us. Born from real science, evolved into nightmare fuel, and brought to life through some of the most disturbing storytelling in television history, the Cordyceps infection blurs the line between fiction and terrifying possibility. From the twitching, broken runners to the massive, grotesque Rat King, every form tells a story of humanity consumed and reshaped by an unforgiving force of nature. As the world of The Last of Us continues to evolve, so too does the infection. And if there's one thing we've learned, it's that the real horror isn't always in the monsters. It's in how close they are to becoming real. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment below, letting us know which infected stage creeps you out the most. And remember, in a world where nature adapts, survival isn't guaranteed. Stay safe out there, and don't breathe too deep.